But wait, there's more. Good morning and welcome to SimWorld today, September 9th edition. And just like a midnight infomercial, we are not done yet on the Jickley, Ripacare, South Carolina drama and investigation. I promised we were talking SWFL today. We are not, because this continues to be a growing, ever-evolving, and ongoing investigation, which springs leaks of more information that's provided to us. First, let's break some news. We don't often get to break news on SimWorld today. There's plenty of reporters that have that. But we've got breaking news to start, and that is the extension of the suspension for Ripacare. That was initially a 6-game suspension as levied by South Carolina. The university themselves, through their part in their investigation, levied a 6-game suspension upon Ripacare. SimWorld U has since extended that to 15 games. So consider it a 9-game suspension from SimWorld U and a 6-game suspension from South Carolina. Now, if South Carolina wanted to come back in and say, well, never mind, we're not suspending him for 6 games, then that is still then would be retroactively moved to a 15-game suspension from SimWorld U. So Ripacare will miss 15 games. If you want to get technical, it's a 6-game suspension by South Carolina, followed by a 9-game suspension from SimWorld U. If South Carolina were to rescind that suspension, it would still be 15. He is out for 15 games. That's the first piece of breaking news. Which is a huge loss for a South Carolina team that was very much in the play as one of the best young teams in college basketball, who has massive games early on in their schedule, who has a very high expectation for a team that was competitive a season ago. They're top 25 to start the season. They are without Ripacare to lead off the season. A massive, massive blow to first-year head coach Dre Pope and this organization and this program. That is not how you want to start your Tuesday morning if you're South Carolina and you're Ripacare. A 15-game suspension. Now, before we get into, and I would say into more developments, when you report on things like this, it's very often that more reporting needs to be done. You're never done reporting. That's why investigations are typically almost always ongoing until the very last moment. And then always there's the door of, well, we can reopen it. Now, while the investigation continues to be ongoing, what I can tell you is that through our reporting, we've got more information. We're going to reveal that more information right here shortly, but not quite right now. Because first, a couple pieces of clarification. This is not a legal filing. And so while I saw some comments about wanting to see, well, let's see the documentation in the same way that, the Pablo Torre investigation or reporting on Kawhi Leonard had the emails. It had, KL2 Aspire LLC filings. It had a number of items. Why? Because that is a investigation by the DOJ, by the SEC. That is also a bankruptcy filing, which is a very public filed event. This is not. This is not a public filing. So we can, and I can tell you, I have seen these documents, these text messages and emails. I will promise you on my integrity that they exist. What I unfortunately cannot do is share them. And why? Because those are provided via anonymous sources who wish to remain anonymous, as one would expect in a situation like this. And these aren't public. These are private documents and information that's within the school and within those that were close to this situation. Again, not public. We won't, unfortunately, be able to share those here on SimWorld today or the Marsh Pod. I don't have any. Trust me, we've tried to find it. Some workarounds to how we can get this information out to provide some clarity, some confirmation for anybody that sits here and says he's making it up. I promise you I'm not. But unfortunately, I have no way to go out there and deliver these documentations to you. That's a clarification piece. There's some people that are skeptical of Dre Pope in this, despite the reporting that we posted on Sunday, which I back up, that the investigation has found no wrongdoing or involvement from Dre Pope. Now, I said yesterday on this show that you look at the Clippers and nobody blames Ty Lue for everything going on with Kawhi Leonard because we've got Steve Ballmer at the helm. All that's true. And Dre Pope is not the orchestrator of VIL negotiations at this point, if they were even permissible. That's from the school. But if you are skeptical that Dre Pope was not involved, let's remove the reporting and let's throw a little bit of an opinion hat on. Let's just toss that one on for a second. I don't think you're wrong. I don't think it's suspicious and skeptical, valid skepticism due for anybody that thinks Dre Pope is involved in another escapade or he's close to another. Now, whether this is true or not, again, the investigation says he's not. But I'm not going to blame anybody that sits here and says, I don't believe that. I don't believe that Dre Pope was not involved because his benefit of the doubt does not exist right now because of his past transgressions. If you came in with a scot-free attitude and you said, no, I didn't do this, I had no involvement, and you were Tomas Kusa, who hasn't had any involvement. I'm not saying he was involved in any way, shape, or form. I want to clarify that very quickly. But you would sit here and say, yeah, okay, Tomas Kusa probably not involved in this because why would I believe he would be otherwise? But somebody like Dre Pope, who has been around these situations, who has been involved in and linked to a number of very, very public and skeptical-driven events, he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt. And I don't think you're wrong for feeling that. I'm not saying that he's completely scot-free. I can't verify that there weren't personal conversations between Dre Pope and those involved. I can tell you what the reporting was, that there was no text messages, no documentation that Dre Pope had directly connected to these players in this situation, and there were no phone calls between Dre Pope's number and others. There's other ways to talk to somebody. I can tell you that's for sure certain. So, while these conversations did not 100% link the two, I just want to say I think it's a fair assumption, or I shouldn't say assumption, I think it's a fair skepticism for anybody who, if they are suspicious of another program that Dre Pope is connected to, having links to impermissible benefits. I think you're fair to think that. Now, one other clarification before we get the new information. Jickley was the instigator of all these attempted benefits. The documents backed that up. While he does have representation that would be assisting in some way, shape, or form, I can tell you right now it was not anybody related to the Legacy Group or the agency that helps SimWorld U and SimWorld Prep athletes. There was a very obvious instigator of all this, and it was Jickley. The messaging, the emails, the text messaging, and documentation very much supports that. Because he is underage, because he's under 18, you would need additional signing on any of these agreements. That's where representation comes in. But I can tell you full force, no questions about it, Jickley was 100% the instigator. And why does that matter? One, because there's plenty of skepticism about that. And I can tell you for certain, Jickley was number one in line saying, I want these things and I want them to happen. He failed in those or attempted to circumvent the rules, and now he's suspended indefinitely. But in the reporting and additional information that was brought to our attention through this investigation, and I shouldn't say investigation, that makes me sound way too official, through this reporting, the improper benefits we talked about. Now, we said yesterday that SimWorld U indicated, the league office and SimWorld Hoops indicated that some of the benefits that were being sought after by Jickley, Ripicare, and those that they were trying to loop into the scheme were outside of the reins of what SimWorld U would expect an approved VIL agreement to look like once it's rolled out. What could that possibly be? Because you see plenty of people sitting there saying, well, guy should get his money. And I said yesterday, and I'll say to the end of time, I think you're right. You have VIL, you should be able to use your image and likeness to exactly your financial benefit. But the important part there is your financial benefit. As was made clear to us as part of some additional conversations with folks that have documentation further to back this up, as well as awareness and involvement in some of these conversations, part of the improper benefits that Jickley sought was access to sex workers and illegal substances. So while Jickley was trying to get his money, was trying to find ways to get Ripicare and anyone else and any one of his other buddies what he felt was due, his group, spearheaded by Jickley, was also in pursuit of access to sex workers and illegal substances. And while that is certainly worthy of legal filing, no official report as of right now, there's been no investigation in this because I do not believe any of those acts actually happened. That was what he was pursuing. Along with financial benefits, he was attempting to gain access to sex workers and illegal substances. And if we have to spell it out any more than illegal substances, we're talking the drugs you can't have. We're talking the drugs that no state has made legal. We're talking about the things that are not written in underneath a medical coverage or anything to that extent. We're talking illegal substances that are across the continental United States and pretty much in every other country, illegal to possess, illegal to sell, illegal to use. And that is what Jickley was in pursuit of from everything that we found in our reporting. Beyond the access to illegal sex workers, we should clarify that if you were considering that to be an option that's above board. It's not. The illegal substance was not just the consumption of, but also the potential distribution of. Now that, I think, is where you start seeing the mastermind at work fall apart. Again, let's remove the reporter. Let's take the opinion hat back off the shelf. An individual who's 17 years old trying to grab his improper benefits, first was financial. He attempted to do that via the above-board routes of asking SimWorld U if he could pursue that. SimWorld U resoundingly said no, because we're working on something and working on the framework, and we do not want this to become the Wild West of options for players, and we want to have something that makes sense, but also protects the players in the league. He said, okay, thanks, I'm going to do it anyway, sought financial benefits, as well as trying to find his way to becoming, if we really want to dumb this thing down, a drug dealer and, dare I say, a pimp. Now, am I saying that's his goals? I'm not. But it sure spells out that type of hopes. The access to those two items and the hope and intent to distribute, while those were never, I want to emphasize this part, were never acted upon as far as the reporting can find, and no official investigation has been determined by any law enforcement agency, local, state, or federal. That is what Jickley and his representation, again, spearheaded by Jickley, as backed up in messaging, wished that he could do, or hoped to obtain. Some of the text messages go as far as saying, and I will quote this, "What do we have to do to be the ones that move this and make the money?" This being, as you could see in a thread, illegal drugs, as well as what's the going rate for women and how much can we have available. It's not the most intelligent of moves, I will give you that Jickley attempted to. Now, how much of that was on Ripicari, I think we can judge by the suspensions, one being indefinite, the other being 15 games. There was one that was leading and one that was following. And Jickley, judging by the suspensions and by the reporting and investigations done, was most certainly the leader of this attempt, with Ripicari merely following in his footsteps, though still certainly trying to experience the benefits that that Jickley was looking to obtain. That's, as of now, what we have. An indefinite suspension by Jickley still stands. An extended suspension to now 15 games total for Ripicari from South Carolina. Still no direct ties to Dre Pope, though still plenty of questions, valid ones, and skepticism will be abound, and I do not think it's ill-placed to put it there. I'm not saying it's not, that's fair to put it there because there could be something there. I'm saying that Dre Pope has not done much to garner benefit of the doubt, and the improper benefits, some of which that Jickley was attempting to obtain, included access to sex workers and illegal substances, with the reported intent to be a distributor of both. That's not good. And so the hammer has most certainly been laid down on Jickley. It appears that none of this had anything under the guise of SimWorld U, certainly just a bad apple in a bunch of apples in an apple orchard full that are plenty, that are green, red, whatever color you prefer to eat your apples. This whole apple orchard full of them. One was rotten. That tree, or he was attempting to rot the rest of the tree. Got a little bit of a second apple, but none others, as of this point, appear to have been linked to those attempts. It's a lot to unpack. But SimWorld U continues to step forward. They hope, as from what I can tell, they hope to put this behind them. I'm not saying this is the end of it. We can certainly hope and pray that it is. If there is any more that comes back up, we will be sure to bring that to everyone's attention. Make sure that all of the improper attempts are being brought to light accurately, fairly. Thanks for tuning in here on SimWorld today. If there's more, we'll have it. If not, we're talking hoops tomorrow morning, right here on SimWorld TV. The only place you can see the game, be the game.